All right, group 15 here again. We're going to be talking about our 8 channel requirement. So our requirement says our node needs to be able to accommodate up to 8 sensors. So we're going to have 8 inputs from our sensor board or from our node going to our hub. So this is our node, this is our hub. Oh yeah, node over here on the right, hub over here on the left. Um, and right now it's powered on, so you can see a little green LED right about there. So it's powered on, and it's taking data. Right now we only have one strain gauge hooked up to it, so this is our strain gauge right here. You see our little gray wire running into our box, and it's connected to channel 0 right there.
And this is our sensor board, which has 8 separate channels that are kind of wired in parallel with one another, each going to our ADC that is transmitting over to the hub.
Yes. So we have our 8 channels of data. So we're going to prove that we can get all 8 channels of data. So if we look at our database here. So if we look at this timestamp, we see it's 8:24:59 universal time. We go over to our clock. So that was, roughly 8 minutes ago. So this is pretty recent. We can see we have channel 8. Start over here, the left-hand column. We got our channel number. So you try to show the left-hand column.
Yeah.
Channel 8. We scroll all the way down. 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. All in the database. So all 8 channels have data taken and have been sent. We go over back on the value side. So as I said earlier in the video, channel 0 is the only channel that we have a strain gauge hooked up to. So that's the only channel that's going to be getting a non-data that isn't 0 pretty much. So we have a 350 ohm strain gauge, and if without any strain on the bar, the output should be 1.25 volts out of 2.5. So 1.25 out of 2.5. We go over to our calculator. Let's get a hex value first. We have to show the hex value first. So we look at just the first data, for example, 7F, 8F. We go to our hexadecimal converter. So I converted 7, 8F to 32655. 32655. Over to our calculator. We see 32655 out of 6535 because it's a 16-bit ADC, and then times 2.5, which is our max voltage. We get about 1.25. So we know that the data being sent from channel 0 is accurate. The rest of the channels have all zeros because nothing is hooked up to them. So that's pretty much a 0. Right now it's basically just reading noise. That's why it's very small numbers.
And we know this is correct because if the strain gauge, or if the channels 1 through 7 were not receiving any data at all, they would be reading FFFF, which would indicate that there would be an error.
FFFF indicates there's absolutely nothing in memory for the node. If you want to see more about that, you can check out our block checkoff video. We talk about that a little more. So the fact that it's getting zeros means that it is reading, and it's really small numbers, meaning it's just all noise.
Yeah. And one more point of clarification. Earlier we mentioned that where the data we were receiving was from channel 0. On the database, our channels are labeled 1 through 8, whereas we labeled our actual channels on our sensor board 0 through 7. So channel 1 on the database corresponds to channel 0.
On the board, yeah. That's off by 1. Okay.